it is. The MD11 has arrived, and wow, is that a big airplane. Hello and welcome to the channel. Welcome if you're new. My name is Dave. I do the spy flights over on Twitch, and every now and then I come on over here to YouTube to do a cold and dark video on a new and exciting plane. This is a plane that I've always liked. I've always really liked the DC-10s and the MD-11s. And I'm so excited about the airplane that I'm here on a day where, quite frankly, my voice is totally fried. It's just a fall/winter cold, nothing big, but holy moly, voice quality is bad, so sorry about that. But I really want to do a flight in this airplane and show you all the cool stuff. Now, the airplane itself is not complete. This airplane recently came out, and it's available to the CE owners, collector's edition owners, sort of like the second round of beta testers, you might call them that. But these are the real fans of the MD11 for sure. The next time that this airplane is supposed to be available, at least as of now, as I'm recording the video, is going to be early 2024. This is going to be a full cold and dark flight. The add-ons that I use are Navigraph and SimBrief. I do have payware and freeware airports. I'm not using any of the defaults at the moment. I also have GSX. We'll see if we decide to use GSX. Our flight today is Frankfurt to East Midlands Airport. We are departing off of runway 25 center on the OBOKA departure, the 5 November. A lot of airways on this one, but the airplane seems to handle the airways fine. And then it says direct into East Midlands Airport. There is actually an approach that you use for the runway. We'll look at that in charts. Cruise today is flight level 380. It's an hour and 45 minutes, basically gate to gate, covering over about 600 miles. So for today, we're using real-world weather and time, as you can see from our little zoom into the airplane and all of the rainy conditions. The airplane again, it's not complete. So there's going to be what you might call bugs in the airplane. And the developers know about it. They're working on them right now. And I expect improvements are coming. So this is going to basically be how it is that I am working around the bugs. Sorry about that. Man, is the voice even going to last? So since it's not complete, I'm going to tell you that this is not about the right way versus the wrong way to fly this airplane. This is simply what I have found that works for me. I did spend a lot of time with the MD11 over in X-Plane from Rotate Sim, so I'm trying to apply some of the lessons that I learned over there. Plus, the other thing that I'll also mention is I also spent quite a bit of time when the Rotate came out watching the full cockpit videos over on YouTube to try and learn more about this amazing airplane. So there we go. The only other thing that I've gone and done is I went and did a Google search a long time ago when I first got the airplane. And I was able to find a normal checklist for the MD11. This one was actually produced by Lufthansa Cargo, and the way you find it is just your Google search is the word checklist space MD11 space PDF. You should be able to find this. I obviously printed it up, and I definitely suggest using it on this. There is one thing that you do on the checklist, though, the takeoff warning checks. Don't do that right now. That'll crash the airplane in the sim. So the takeoff checks, that's when you push the throttle forward and Betty says, engine 1 fire, engine 2 fire, that sort of thing. So yeah, we don't want to do those things, okay? So let's hop in the airplane and do the flight. It is a great cockpit. This was, the MD11 was the update from the DC-10, so there's an awful lot of automation in the airplane. The first things that I'm going to do is I'm going to move all of my throttles forward just a little bit and make sure that they're good. Speed brakes are down, flaps are up. I'm also going to move my controls. Always like to do this. You know, USB controllers, they will disconnect on you, and that can be a problem. Okay, so right now the airplane is off. It is cold and dark. So the first thing that I usually do is come over here to the options page, and I'm just going to hit save. You can attach a SimBrief username to this. I don't usually go and do that yet because I don't see that there's anything that I can go and grab from that. At least it hasn't worked yet for me. The next thing I'm going to do is go over to services, and I'm going to open that passenger door outside. I'm going to do the cargo main door. I'm going to attach a ground power unit, and I'm going to put some wheel chocks into place. And then if you go outside, you can come on over here and move over here, and you can see the doors are open. We got some chocks. We got a ground power card. We are over at Lufthansa Cargo here. This is, I learned about MD11s from videos that were shot in Lufthansa Cargo cockpits. And so that I kind of enjoyed those flights too. There were 4 videos following a Lufthansa Cargo crew on a very long rotation. 4 very long flights. So I really enjoyed those videos. So, and also over in the business community, over on LinkedIn, Lufthansa Cargo is doing a lot of expansion, a lot of business. So, you know, hats off to them. They are doing incredible stuff. Okay, so we got the doors open. Next thing let's go ahead and do is turn power on the airplane. So what I know about doing this right now, we're going to turn on the battery, and the battery is going to pop up, and you hear the fans turning on. So with power first on, we're going to go turn on those nav lights. Okay, so we've got the nav lights there. Then the next thing we'll do is we do have ground power, so let's turn on external power, and more of the airplane starts to light up here. Looking pretty good. I like to backlight. It's called integrated lighting. Airbus uses it a lot, so does Boeing. But you come up here and backlight the overhead panel like this. It just makes it easier to read the labels, and that's really nice. The next thing I'll do is we've already got the flight guidance control. The autopilot is lit up. Now that one's turned all the way up when you start it. I don't usually turn it all the way up. I turn it down just a little bit there. You're probably also at night going to notice that the, I don't think these are LCDs. I think these were CRTs from the old days. But if you come down here underneath the engine switches, you can see down here we've got some dials here. If you turn it all the way down, and I usually go up 2 clicks. And that usually makes it, especially if it's dark outside. So it's 2 clicks, and I'm using the mouse wheel on these, and we just turn them all down and all up. There we go. And now all of a sudden you can see that all of the numbers aren't blazing in your face here. In fact, it's almost a little bit bright there too. And I think that, you know, that's part of the normal cockpit startup too. The real world pilots are doing these sorts of things. Okay, and of course, you know, when you start up any kind of a jet, somebody goes to the lavatory, the master caution light goes on. So at this point, we're turning off the master caution light. Next thing we do is we come on up here, and I'm going to turn on the emergency exit lights. A lot of the controls on this one, you use the mouse wheel button on this. And we're going to be fueling the airplane, so no smoking goes on too. And all of this is looking good. If it's really dark, there is also a dome light right above the thunderstorm light that you can use. And so there we go. That's our first step. That's what I call the initial power up on the airplane. If it's also dark outside, you can also show some team spirit here and go and turn on those logo lights. Hey, we got logo lights on there. Okay, so with all of that, the next thing that I usually do is it's time to start loading the airplane. And we go to payload, so all of this is set. Once you go to payload and do this, you can't go back and get these numbers. Now, the cargo, this is where you load cargo. That doesn't work right now. So don't even bother loading the cargo on this thing. It's just going to be what it is. But you can go over to your fuel. And I'm doing this, it's an old airplane, so I'm doing this in pounds. We need 21,088 pounds of fuel to get there. And you do know over in SimBrief, you could see, uh-oh, look at this. I made a mistake. My first mistake of the day was trying to do stuff without coffee. The second mistake is everything's in kilos. Whoops. How do you fix that? So easy. Go and edit your flight in SimBrief. And your flight is still the same. This is our flight. And in this case, we're going to take the units out of kilos, put them into pounds, and now regenerate your flight. This does not change your routing or anything like that. So if you've already pre-filed on BATSIM, no big deal. Okay, and so there we go. We got all of that. Now I'm going to go and view my PDF version, And I always save this over to a file on my desktop called Active Plan. Otherwise, I would have PDF files all over the freaking place. So I've got that. Now then, let's go over and grab that and see what we have. Okay, come on over here, PDF file. That looks a lot better. 46,000. Yeah, so there's a fuel load for this thing. Okay, so let's come on down here. And we're going to go ahead and do 46,479. Wow, typing with a cold is hard. And so there you go. And we're going to just set the payload. And it's already going to give you a little bit of a zero fuel weight, but there's no real way to fix that. At least not that I know of right now. Developers know it's a bug, and I know that they're working on it. It released on Friday. That's how, released earlier in the week. So they took the weekend off. And so they're going to actually start the day that I'm recording this video. Okay, so now that we're done with that, that's about as close to the load as we're going to get. It's time to go and start doing the FMC. Right now, I don't believe that ACARs, any of these work at the moment. So the first thing that I do is go into FMC1. It will take your navigation database from Navigraph. So in fact, if you're in Microsoft Flight Simulator and you use the Navigraph hub to update your nav data, guess what? There is now a new entry on there for the MD11. Okay, flight plan init. And now this is where you might be able to do the company route, but I haven't done it right, so it doesn't seem to work for me. Let's go ahead and do a from and to flight, EDD, not D. Okay, you saw I made a mistake there. I had to go back and hit clear. On these airplanes, when you hit clear on those things, you got to give it 3 seconds and then go back. Otherwise, you're going to be typing around in circles. EDDF. After you hit clear, there needs to be 3 seconds. Then the little slash, and we're going to East Midlands, which is EGNX. EGNX. I don't spell it for you, I spell it for me. Okay, and let's put it up there in to and from. Our alternate today is EGLL. And so I basically run this airplane sort of a top-down kind of a thing. All right, so flight is going to be GEC. I believe that stands for German Cargo. GEC, and that's the Lufthansa Cargo call sign and flight number 441, and there's our flight number. Now I'm going to stop, and it's time to go and start the alignment process. So we're going to look up here, and this is really kind of an interesting, this is part of the automation. So here are the IRSs, and here is the cargo fire indicator. And now it's time to do the cargo fire test and start the INS. So INS1. Oh my gosh, there we go. And there is the cargo fire test. Now we can go over to here and do number 2 and number 3. Slide over here, maybe slide up a little bit, and let's do the main fire test right now and see if Betty's aboard.
Engine 1, fire. Engine 2, fire. Engine 3, fire.
Hey, Betty is aboard. If you don't know, the pilots called her Bitchin' Betty. I think Betty's pretty cool. So I just say, hey, Betty, welcome aboard. So, and if you go and do some Google searching or YouTube searching, there is a video with the original voice, with Betty, the original voice. Okay, so now after you've turned those on, did you notice that it says initialize IRS? So now I'm going to go and initialize the IRS. Our cruise altitude for today's flight is flight level 380. And then our cost index is a whopping 200. Wow. So there's our cost index. That's page 1. We got a lot of pages to do. Page number 2. Okay, so this is where we're going to go and put in block fuel, and there's going to be a lot of fudge factors in this one, okay? So the first thing to do is look at your block fuel. And I usually, when it's time to enter block fuel, I usually look at the actual fuel readout on my airplane to make sure that's what's really aboard. You know, sometimes you might forget to load it. So here we go, 46.5, that's correct. So let's put in 46.5. And that goes up there. Zero fuel weight. Well, right now, our zero fuel weight is 143.3. The airplane doesn't like that number very much. So what I've been doing is then going over to my flight plan, and I will go and grab the zero fuel weight off the flight plan. This number it doesn't equal the other number, so it's not exact, but it gets the job done for right now. This is not the right way versus the wrong way. This is what's working, at least for me. And our number is going to be 404.9. So 404.9 goes in here. 404.9. That way we have a workable number. And then the next thing we need to do is come over here and get zero fuel weight center of gravity, which is 27.5. 27.5. And that's zero fuel weight on the top. And then come on in here and then take current center of gravity. That's takeoff 22.9. 22.9. And those numbers go in there. Now, the only other number that you can pop into this right now is route reserve, which is 14.4. That's final reserve and alternate fuel. So 14.4 is the only other number that I've been able to stuff into put in there. Everything else does not show up at the moment, so don't waste your time there. Page 3. All we need to do here is put in the refuel quantity, and that is basically what your block fuel again. 46.4 is the new one. 40. I think in the real world what this is how much did you refuel the airplane based on what's already in the airplane, and I don't think there's anything in the airplane right now. We have a thing called the fuel dipstick. I got no idea. I clicked it once. It froze my sim. I don't touch that button anymore. So that's what we're doing there. And there it is. There is our initialization. So all that's good. The next step is the F plan. And I'm going to try not to F this up. That's your one attempt at a bad joke today. Usually at this point in my setup, I'm also usually going to come down here and you can see that all of the ECAM items are lit. I'll go through and turn off as most of these as I can. And then this is the point when you would hit the hydraulic button and go over here and see where there's the hydraulics. And this is where you would run the hydraulic test. And the hydraulic test is up here. I don't believe that it works right now. So this is where you would pressurize the entire hydraulic system, but that's not going to be working at the moment. So this is in my setup when I would run the hydraulic test. Okay, EDDF. This is going to get really tedious. I'm not sure that I haven't been able to download a flight plan in here from SimBrief. So we got to go here and I'll step through this as quickly as I can, but this is going to be a real tedious part for you. So our departure runway today is going to be runway 25 center. So 25 center is our departure runway. That looks good. We're departing on the OBOKA 5 November departure. And it's Frankfurt. That means you got a lot of departure pages here. So OBOKA 5. And there's also, here in Europe, there are some airports where they have different departures, and they're spelled very similarly. Athens famously has Kia Crow and another K that look very similar. We want the 5 November, OBOKA 5 November. There it is. OBOKA 5 November. Okay, so OBOKA 5 November off the runway, no transitions, and insert. And there is our departure. So as we look down here, we'll come on out to OBOKA. And it's going to show your top of descent, and all of that's going to be a little weird. After OBOKA, now we got to do airways. So let's see. I think that's going to be OBOKA. And we're going to do an airway. And our airway out of OBOKA is the Z29 airway. So Z29, and that is going to take us to TORNU. T-O-R-N-U. T-O-R-N-U. If you feel like fast forwarding through all of this, I understand. Okay, after that, it's direct to BREDA. So I haven't tried this before. DCT, let's see if DCT goes over here. That's not in the database. So let's just go ahead and see if we can't put a direct to BREDA over here. BREDA. I'm doing a little experimenting on you right now. No, you can't do it that way. So insert the flight plan. And so there is OBOKA. There's already a discontinuity there. Go ahead and remove that. And let's continue on down. And there is TORNU. So after TORNU, it's BREDA. BREDA. Yes, I have to spell it repeatedly. BREDA. Put that on top of descent. And then, of course, it always comes back up to a little bit of the top there. After BREDA, we are going to GALSO. 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 Put that on top of descent. And, of course, it goes back up there, so you got to go and page down a little bit more. There is GLASO. Oh, yippee, guess what? We're back on airways. So now we'll go in here and let's hit GLASO. Make sure you got it up here. It says GLASO and airway. Our airway out of GLASO is the Q63. Q63. And that goes in there. Q63 puts us out at ERING. 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 After ERING, we got another airway. It's the L179. L179. And that goes in there. After the L179, that puts us out at the Lambourne VOR. Remember, that's the big old VOR for coming on into Heathrow. After Lambourne, we're going to be on the L610. L610. They love airways in the UK. HEMEL, 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 HEMEL. Not in database. Did I spell it right? HEMEL, HEM, HEMEL, HEMEL, HEMEL. Not in database. Okay, so what do we do there? So let's go ahead and clear the 610. Let's go ahead and insert things the way they are. And after that, there is GLASO. So BREDA, TORNU, top of descent. I don't think any of that showed up in there. Yeah, it didn't show up. None of that showed up in there. So that just totally blew all that away. So let's go into GLASO again and we'll stop before HEMEL. So, up, I did it wrong. Return to lateral reserve. Oh, I hit star instead of airways. I've told you I'm not awake. So this is after GLASO. We know that the Q63 works. Q63, and that works. And Q63 takes us to ERING. 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 If you are still watching this right now, thank you so much. It's got to be brutal. L179. L179. But again, this is such a cool airplane. I think it's going to get better. Oh, I know it's going to get better. The developers have already made such a great airplane. Now, insert all of those, and so all of that would work. And holy cats, what happened to everything? I'm going back up to the top here. So there is our flight plan, 25 center. And that is our departure datum, OBOKA. And then we've got an airway. There's TORNU. We recognize that. Then there's BREDA. And there's GLASO, AMRIV, MOMIC, EGNX. Uh-oh. All of this has sort of like, okay, it's popped all that in. ERING, Torbix. I put them in like 200 times. There's Lamburn. Okay, so we have a problem here. We put all of this in above EGNX. So let's go ahead and clear that EGNX. Okay, that didn't work. Lateral, oh boy. So, return to active plan. We seem to have a problem here. I can't seem to clear or delete that. Can I clear this here? Clear EGNX. Ah, we got an, okay. No, didn't like that. I think I've got to blow all of this stuff out that I plugged in here. I think I have to clear all this out. I really should go and do a delete here. You should not have to watch all this. I'm going to attempt to do an edit. Take 2. Hey, look at that. The rain stopped. That's how long it took me to clear everything up. Okay, welcome back. I just went and cleared everything out of there. There was like 3 extra pages that was ridiculous in there. So after GALSO, it doesn't seem to want to let me go back in to put in more airways. So what I'm just going to do is put in the waypoints after GALSO, and that should work at the moment. So if you've got a break in putting in airways, I would stop doing the airways after that. Okay, so after GALSO, we're going to ERING, E-R-I-N-G. E-R-I-N-G. So ERING, put that on right over there at top of descent. And then it's going to put you all the way to back to the top. Keep going on down. There's OBOKA. There's top of climb. TORNU, BREDA, GALSO. Hey, there's ERING. After ERING, we're going to go to the Lamburn VOR, LAM. So this is another reason why it is this wouldn't be great on... okay, so we've got several here. I am going to use this one, which is the VOR. Okay, there's Lamburn. And after Lamburn, on top of EGNX, after Lamburn, HEMEL, H-E-M-E-L. H-E-M-E-L, HEMEL. We'll put that on top of EGNX, and that worked out pretty good. There's HEMEL, and after HEMEL, it's WELIN, W-E-L-I-N. W-E-L-I-N. Now, it could very well be that in this case, I did something wrong. But, so it could be I did something wrong in all of this, and it's not really a bug, but this is just, it's workaround day. So there you go. And now our flight plan is good. There's the end of the plan, and then Frankfurt is the beginning right there. So let's go ahead and do our arrival into EGNX. Our star, right now we're landing on runway 27, ILS 27. There are no SIDs that we're doing on this one, but there are transitions coming into East Midlands. So as we look over here, there is a transition on the south side from Piggott. So we're going to do the south side transition from Piggott. Also, there is a hold in here that we need to watch out for. So we're going to do the transition from Piggott. And that looks good. ILS 27, no SIDs, no stars, I mean, and that should do it. That should be our flight plan. So I just clicked flight plan. It took me back to the top of the very, very long list. And we'll just kind of come down here. So we're not going to be able to do the second round of airways. And again, that might be something I did wrong, but there's top of descent, WELIN. There's the approach on in. That looks all correct to me too. It did not put a hold in there, so I think we should be in good shape. Okay, so guess what? Now we're going to go. This after the hydraulic test. At this point, we're getting ready to depart the scene of the crime. So we're going to come back up here, and we're going to come and over here by the fire panel. We're going to hit. It's kind of hard to see the APU start and stop. is right down there. So we're going to start up the APU. APU is going to start. It's going to flash at us a bit. At this point, we're pretty well done with these numbers, but we can go over here and do takeoff and approach, and we're going to need a few little bits of information out of this. Generally, right now, I'm just doing flaps 10 for takeoff with this airplane. I got a good runway. So the next thing for us to do is get slope and wind and OAT. You don't do this the way the other airplane was, and I have no idea what to put in for flex. So for slope and wind, there's a fast way to get this information. If you have Navigraph, go to airports, and then go to Frankfurt and runways. We know we're taking off on 25 center, so there is 25 center. If you click it, now all of a sudden you're going to get a headwind. So 25 center, we have a 5 knot headwind, and our slope is down minus 0.27. Okay, so for that, it's going to be minus 0.27. There's your runway slope. And then over there, it told us we have a 5 knot headwind. So 5 is a headwind. And if you click that, it puts in down 0.2 and headwind. If you had a tailwind, you put a minus sign. Okay, outside air temperature. Another great way to go and find the information, just come over here to weather, and our outside air temperature is 13 degrees. So let's go ahead and you put in 13, and then you have to put the letter C for degrees Celsius, and that's going to give you that. Okay, and then the only other thing is pulling a number out of thin air. I'm going to go ahead and just do flaps 10 for takeoff. And now all of a sudden we have check and confirm V speeds. I don't have a flex at the moment, so I don't know what to pop in there. V1 is 130. VR is 152. And then there's this button push ignored thing that pops up. I guess that means you're doing it too fast. So V1, VR, and V2. I don't know why that happened, but that just pops up. There's our speeds. Our stabilizer trim for takeoff is going to be 4.1. Flaps retract is 178. That's going to be my first number that I'm putting up here for my speed. I've been doing that because I'm flying the E175, and that seems to be, provide the less, fewer aerobatics when you're retracting flaps on some of these airplanes that still need a little bit of development. Okay, so I'll go ahead and pop that in. By now, the APU should be up, so we can come up here, and if we look over here on this panel, the APU power should be up and on. And so we can do that, and then we'll come down here, and just below this we'll put on APU air, and we now have some APU air. And it started raining again. Now it's time to button up the airplane. We're done with these numbers, so back to services. I'm going to close the big cargo door. I'm going to go ahead and go to the passenger door too. Let's go ahead and make sure that ground power has been disconnected. Ground power is now disconnected here. Make sure the APU is on before you do that, otherwise the airplane goes dark real fast. Okay, GPU, and I'm going to look down here. I have my parking brakes on. They are on, and I'm going to do wheel chocks. And there we go. Okay, so all of that looks good. I'm going to remove this caution. If you do want to fly the airplane in on VATSIM, you can change your squawk number in XPilot or VPilot just by doing in the chat command, a period, a dot, the letter X, a space, and your number, and that will change your squawk code. So you can actually change your squawk code, and it will squawk mode Charlie. So you can put it on VATSIM that way. I also like to use the Logitech radio panel for VATSIM. Wow, is that a lifesaver? It does not work with this airplane right now. I can't change the numbers. So that doesn't work. So if you want to talk on VATSIM, you're going to have to change the numbers here. So there's 123.0, and you can flip them and flop them, and that's going to work just fine. Okay, here we go. So everything's looking pretty good right now. I'm doing also another little experiment here. I have not armed my electrical power, my emergency power yet. There seems to be a problem with the pneumatic system, the air system to spin the engines, so I haven't done that yet. But I am going to come up here and we're going to go ahead and turn on the flow commands on the cargo fire panel, because those are off. And now let's go ahead, and it's time to start excuse me, a checklist. And I'm using this right now. Again, there's one step here I'm not going to do. Gear pins should be aboard, pitot-static systems checked, cabin signs. There are 2 passenger seats that you can carry, so you can carry a relief pilot, so passenger signs are going on. The flight control panel is almost set. We haven't finished the flight control panel. This is why I love using a checklist with these more complex airplanes. We are departing off of runway 25 center. So that's going to be a runway heading of 246 degrees. So 246 degrees over here. So 246 is what we'll dial this down to. And it takes a while. So 246. Let's see if the shift dial goes faster. No, not really. That's okay. We'll just dial it down like a good pilot. 246. I do have to say the graphics are looking very nice on the airplane. They look good. I really like the textures in the panel. 246. And then the only other thing we'll do is look at our charts, fly as close to real world as we can, and our initial climb clearance is 5,000 feet. So dial that down to 5,000 feet. And now this panel is set. So now the flight control panel is now set. I have not done an altimeter setting. Holy moly. We can get our altimeter setting. Again, it's right here in Navigraph. There are great places to get it. Others too. But our altimeter is 1003. And so over here, it's probably going to be easier to see here. There's the altimeter. You do have to take it out of inches of mercury and put it into hectopascals. We're in Europe, and 1003 is our altimeter. And our altimeters are now set too. Okay, so now we could basically say that the flight control panel is set. Let's do the speed band check here. V1, and these are a little hard to read. The pink is a little off. V1 is 168, rotate at 152. 130, 152, and 168. Read it from the bottom up. And taxi speed is in there too. Fuel, we'll verify here, go out of hydraulic. I usually just put it here on engines. Electrical and air now have issues, but that's okay. And let's come back here, go to the main engine panel. And the engine panel, we confirm our fuel is 46.4. Good. SD status is auto. Systems are set. Takeoff data is inserted. Auto brakes. Auto brakes here go to takeoff. That's looking good. This is takeoff warning. This is when you push the throttle, each throttle forward, and Betty yells at you or talks to you. Don't do that right now. It locks up the sim. And flap takeoff select. Over here, we're in an old MD, so dial a flap is set to 10. And I think we're ready to go. I'm going to go ahead and let's get GSX to do a pushback for us. And let's prepare for pushback and departure. And if we look over here, some guy is going to come walking out of a building, violating the laws of physics, as two solid objects aren't supposed to occupy the same space at the same time. But we're going to, oh, look at this. We're going to actually walk over here and walk down there and then walk through walls. Hey, boy, that's really awesome. Okay, so with that, we could do the before start checklist.
Hello, Captain. We are ready for pushback.
And so are we, thank you. Cabin is secured, mobile phones are off. Engine ignition system is going on. Engine ignition system is going on. And in the other airplane, you turn on the auxiliary hydraulic pump number 1. The beacon can now go on. And the beacon's right down there. Beacon is now on. System modes are auto. The parking brake is set. We are ready for before start. So that should be good. And I think there is some GSX profiles now set up for this airplane.
Departure checks completed. Bypass pin inserted.
But she's in the middle of the airplane here, not up at the at the nose of the airplane. So obviously GSX is still a little twisted here. That's okay. I'm sure that someone's going to fix that soon. And then she's going to walk out here. And you can see, I think that that's about right, size-wise, too, for this airplane. That really is how big this airplane is. And again, if you look at the Lufthansa cargo videos, when the pilot is walking around, that's about size. So these really were monster airplanes. Okay, we're about ready to connect all of that.
Locking gear.
So you notice I still have not turned on my emergency power yet. I kind of have to recycle some things as we're starting the engines. So that's out of sequence right now. But this is how it seems to be working, and I still have to recycle a few things. Okay, we are going to do nose to the right, tail to the left.
Release parking brakes, please.
Are we ready to go? Parking brakes are released.
Commencing push. All engines clear. Start at will.
Now over here at Lufthansa Cargo, they'll not just push you back like this, they will also pull you forward to that line in this area here, because they're moving so many airplanes out of this small area. All right, engine start time. So everything looks like it's good to go over here. We should have pneumatic pressure. We'll see. So let's go ahead and see if we can't get that. Starting engine 3, the light goes on. Look over here, and there is no N2. All right, so we got to turn that off again. This is when I'm going to go and arm my emergency power. And then we come over here, and I think I have to go system, manual, and then auto, and try it again. And that's about the only way. Now all of a sudden you can see we have N2. So there's N2 on engine number 3, and that's the only way that I've been doing that. So some sequence is wrong there. 13, 14, 15%. That's when we go ahead and do fuel. And our right engine's starting on up. There are no engine spinner animations right now. The engines are nothing in there at the moment. So the sounds are pretty good. If you're always kind of wondering when they're going to stop you, when your crew chief stops walking, that's when they're going to stop. And you see she's stopped, so they're not going to push us into the fence. So when she stops, that's about when you're going to get ready to stop. Then again, this is a big airplane. Maybe they're going to push us into the fence. Please don't push us. Hey, look at that. They're not going to push us into the fence.
Cockpit to ground. We have a good engine start. You can disconnect.
All right, let's go ahead. Starting engine number 1. Push the button. Look over here. Look for N2. Announce to the co-pilot. Engine 1 starts. And then you look over here. 10, 15%. Although I think I was seeing the Lufthansa cargo pilots were doing it at about 17. So 17%, if I remember right. It's been a while since I've seen those videos. Engine 1 starting. Our flight plan looks like it's all pretty good here.
Unlocking gear.
Okay, that all looks good. You'd also look over here and you would monitor your oil levels too. Oil quantities, if these start dropping, that means holy cats, oil leak. And this is looking really good. And EGT is up, and our N1 is coming up, and it's going to stop at about 26% on N1, and that's the complete pretty much of that start cycle. and then we can go ahead. Engine number
Torch
2.
line disconnected. Bypass pin removed.
Engine number 2 starts.
Left is clear. Right is clear.
And 9, 15 to 17%. I gotta go watch the video again. I think it was 17% is when they did fuel. And there comes fuel. Okay, there goes the tug. Crew chiefs should be walking out here, and they'll give us a salute and release from guidance. And there goes that engine. That looks great. And there she goes. She's going to hold up the gear pin and wave at us. Hello. Again, it's great to look at some of the GSX people and stuff. You see how big these planes are. Okay, hi, look at this. See my gear pin? I've removed the gear pin. You can steer the nose wheel. And then we're also going to wave. That's basically saying I've examined the underside of the airplane. There's no tools under there, no people, no bunny rabbits, and you're safe to taxi. Okay, and all of this looks really, really good. The hydraulic system now says that we need to put that into auto, and we can turn off the auxiliary pump at this point in time. You can also come down here, and we're going to turn off the APU air, and that is supposed to initiate the process where we automatically shut down the APU. Everything else is good and normal at the moment. So we'll come over here, and I'm going to do the nose light to taxi. And let's see, we'll also do control checks. You come down here and do config, and the config check over here. This is what we'll go ahead and let's do rudder and ailerons and elevators. All of those look really good. And let's slide over here and just do a quick check. Our stabilizer trim is 4.1. And in fact, there's this little box here. It says stab trim. So let's go do stabilizer trim. 4.1 is the setting. 4.1. Stabilizer trim is now set. Okay, now you see it's changed to flaps. So flaps are going to be 10. So it's saying we have a config problem here. So flaps are rolling out here. There goes the flaps, and you can see over here it's showing that. And now it says brakes. So now we have to do the brakes. Toe brakes are on. And then the last thing it's saying is spoilers. Spoilers. Whoops. You actually put it up here with the thumb wheel. And now all of a sudden the little box is green. Okay? So after start, APU is off, anti-ice system modes are good. And part of the before takeoff checklist, one of the last thing is that box, the EAD, engine and alert display. If that's green, you should be ready to go. Parking brake is off. I still have a config error or something going on there, so that's unusual. So for taxi, the way I saw the Lufthansa cargo pilots going, throttles all three go up until you see your airplane is rolling. Get some momentum here. This is not an Airbus. This does not sit there and do a nice little thrust idle taxi. So you can see we're rolling, and then your two wing engines go to idle, and you taxi on your center engine. Okay, let's see here. We're going down to the 2.5, so we have to turn out this way. Remember, you're sitting about a mile ahead of your nose wheel. So be sure and, over taxi a little bit. I still have a config warning. I wonder what my configuration problem is. Might need to bump those engines up just a little bit. The wing engines, to keep your momentum going on a taxi. Otherwise, you just kind of stall out. Usually at this point in time, they're going to bring us out here at November 11 for Lufthansa Cargo. Here's another hold point. If you're doing Frankfurt Fridays, those hold points are important. By the way, this is a freeware scenery. This is a freeware update from flightsim.to. It's a really nice one. Okay, so we'll come out at November 11. Again, over taxi a little bit. And that should give you a nice smooth turn where your engines, your wings don't cut off your, overcut the taxiway. I didn't say that right, the turn. Okay, config is still got an issue. What is my issue with config? Why are you upset at me? I don't see. There's nothing that's enunciated down there, but we still have... Oh, anti-skid is off. Ah, okay. So anti-skid is down here, and that is by the auto brake. It goes on. Hey, our configs are gone. We have no more configuration problems. Go over there. Nobody's coming. And there's our turn over here. Nice wide turn on this one. The nose wheel tiller works really pretty good. Sometimes you might need a little differential braking, though, I've found, to do the little bit of the turn. And I've still got a little bit of my engines up right now. Okay, so as we're kind of coming out here, let's get some momentum here. This is going to be one of those departures that right off the runway. We have some guidance. We've got waypoints, so it's not a vectors off the runway kind of departure. So I'm going to hit the nav button, and that should basically turn. Nav is now armed. That's good. I'm going to turn on my traffic. I'm going to turn on my data. Airports are not showing up. Starting to pick up some speed now. There's about 23 knots of taxi speed, so the two wing engines just went to idle, and I might reduce this amount of thrust in my center engine too. We're picking up speed, so I'm not going to idle it, otherwise you'll just come gliding to a stop. I also really like the new moving map here from Navigraph. That's just perfect. It really helps out, especially on, Frankfurt Friday. Okay, we're 27. We're still not slowing down. 28. All of my engines are going to idle. We're going to get a speeding ticket. Little bit of brakes. 24. 23. Okay, it's starting to slow down a little bit. Good. Okay, before takeoff checklist. Flight controls are checked and set. Flaps are 10 degrees. Spoilers are armed. Trim is set. And again, the EAD box is clear and green. So we're all good to go with that. This really does help. I also really like using a checklist now, famously on just, group flights with friends and stuff like that. I generally don't use it that much over on the Twitch spy flights because we're just flying with friends. But if you're in a big VATSIM event in these complex airplanes, holy moly, will your checklist be nice. And we're starting to come up here. We're still at about 25 knots, so we need to start slowing it down. And this is a big old jet. We need a little more runway, so we're not going to do that intersection departure there. Very heavy airplane. It taxis really pretty good. Okay, coming on out to the runway. Tower has already cleared us onto the runway. So this is called high intensity. High intensity goes on. Those are your strobes. So they've already said, German Lufthansa Cargo 441, you're cleared for takeoff. So everything else I believe is set. Transponder can go down to TARA. These are the final items before takeoff, at least in my world. We're also going to go ahead and arm auto flight. So one click of auto flight. That should also arm the auto throttle. Auto throttle is a bit of a thing with this airplane, particularly when you're landing. Trying to disengage the auto throttle on landing is a real bear. Okay, and around we go here onto the taxiway. There's the ILS hold. There's the hold short of the runway. Probably going to need a little more throttle because everything's at idle to get around the turn. See, we have landing lights to extend. I'm going to extend them right now. And out we go. Probably need some more throttle to get us going. Very heavy airplane. And there we go. 25 center. Always check the runway signs. Make sure you're on the right one. Especially in some airports where you have multiple runways, same direction. Checking the paint on the runway is a good thing to do. And I think it's behaving to the water right now. My nose wheel is kind of skidding. So I don't think I'm actually turning. I think we're just pushing the nose wheel straight ahead. I think that's one of the things that happens with the big heavy airplanes, not just this one. Add a little more power and around we go. I think it's almost time to take off. Shall we go to East Midlands? Landing lights can go on. Landing lights are on. So we're lined up pretty good. I take my throttles basically up to about midway and make sure my engines are stable. And then just push the throttles slowly forward. And it should set your thrust as you push them forward. And I think it did. I think that the airplane is very, very sensitive to control inputs. And so you'll get autopilot disconnects and stuff if you breathe on them. There's V1 and rotate. And we just kind of leapt off the runway there, didn't we? Holy moly. Positive rate, right? Yep, gear up. It's a little gusty here today. A little gusty here in Frankfurt. It's also supposed to be gusty coming into, coming on in. Okay, there is a turn. Commanded. Gear is going up. There is our turn around there. I'm trying to fly with the flight directors here. I think that, you know, taking off and stuff gets a little bit dodgy here. And straight ahead. Okay, let's also hit the profile button. Profile is not engaging. Let's do FMS speed. FMS speed is happy. Let's climb up there. Ooh, we're bouncing up and down a little bit here. That could be a problem. I don't think that I'm accelerating very well. I'm cranking my altitude up now to about 17. We're slightly off course here. Okay, it's flashing at me. Low speed protection. I think I'm climbing too fast. Let's drop the nose a little bit here. Not too much. Okay, flaps are coming up. So the flight director is a little bit all over the place at the moment. And a slow turn. Let's level that out. Okay, we're sort of heading towards our waypoint here. I've just moved my feet off my rudder pedals. And it's time to do our turn over here. So our little S turn. Flaps retract. So let's just retract and go to slats. And a gentle turn over here now. So far, so good. Still climbing a little. Okay, there's slats retract. Slats going up. And slowly climbing. So we're climbing at about 1,500 feet per minute. It seems to be relatively happy there. Proceed to flight level 380. So that's going to be our climb. And we're coming around, turning a little too steep there. Okay, that should catch us up there on our departure. Speed's kind of coming up. Let's try and do a little autopilot. I've generally found if you could level it out, and then let's see if Betty will take it. Auto thrust. And then stop touching your controls. But be ready.
Autopilot.
Okay, Betty's not happy.
Autopilot. Autopilot.
So, okay, get ready to do more flying. And again, I might have done something wrong there. Might not be happy with me. So let's stabilize ourselves to this next waypoint. Start heading back over there. I've also found that the autopilot gets cranky with you if you're not in, if it's really windy and stuff. Okay, let's try it again. AP. Don't touch anything. I think maybe it's got it. Maybe it's got it. So there's our view. Let's see, 229. I believe that is the speed constraint on going out here. Maybe not. I don't think the speed is right on this. So let's try and hit the profile button and see if that takes it. That does not look right to me. We have hit FMS speeds. There was a speed constraint of 220 knots on the first turn. It doesn't look like it got the memo about the next turn. Let's see what happens after that intercept point. Let's see if it picks it up after that. Yeah, okay. That intercept point that they had right there, now our speed is starting to come up. Yep, there it is. Okay, we're going up to 310. Let's go ahead and retract the landing lights. And turn those off. That looks good. And out we go. There we go to K-PUP, K-PUP, K-U-P-I-P, Q-PIP, whatever. Anyway, we're on the departure. The autopilot's got us. Our speed is slowly increasing. Hey, how about that? We didn't die, right? Oh my gosh. And the weather outside is, you know, not the greatest. Let's see, transition level here in Germany is 5,000 feet. We missed the transition. So all we do is pull the, reset the altimeter, 1013. You just click that one. And so far, so good. Let's see, there is no after takeoff checklist. The one thing that you would do is the after takeoff items, you would do auto brake to off, and then you come over here and carefully speed brakes, disarm. When you watch the pilot there, the pilot just goes whack. The old mechanical airplane, thunk, and that takes care of that. Okay, configuration. Now we'll go down here and change this to engine. And that way we've got engine and fuel and everything else. Cabin is climbing. Pressurization isn't a deal. It looks like the auto throttle has got us. So, generally what I will do on flights like this as we are doing our departure. Okay, what are you doing, airplane? I don't think we're on the departure. Flight plan, we are direct to Masir. Well, I don't, we're certainly not doing that as far as the map is concerned. Masir is, it's got this kinky little turn. That's weird. How about a direct to? Let's try to do direct to Masir and see what happens. And direct Masir. Aha, that took that kinky little turn out of there. It's hard to determine whether or not I'm making mistakes or it's a problem with the airplane. But now we're going in our proper direction. So let's see. I usually also will leave this one on performance. And then we can come over here and do FMC2. And then I will do progress on that one. Aha, we are leveling off at flight level 170, 18,000 feet, which is what I told it to do. Let's continue the climb to flight level 380. And I think I caught it in time before it leveled off, so it's just, you can hear the engine spooling up. Flight level 380. So let's see. Pitch, nav 2, climb thrust, everything's good. Now we're direct to Masir. And then after that, it's Ravki and Dedham and OBOKA. I think we're in good shape. So here's the big thing that I have a problem with right now, among others, is landing. When you're landing, you generally, you leave the auto throttle on until you're ready to reduce the throttles to idle, as you're touching down. The thing is when this airplane touches down, it goes into toga mode. So what I've gone and done is I have a button set up on my Thrustmaster Airbus throttles, and that button is supposed to disconnect the auto throttle. Well, doesn't really do that very well. So what you need to do is, as you're on your approach, as if you weren't busy enough, look down here, and on the side of the throttle, there is a button. And this is your auto throttle disconnect. And I believe, now each throttle, so there's one over here, and then one in the middle for your engine number 2. The thing is from what everybody's told me, all you need to do is click that button, and that should do it for you. It should. I have yet to succeed at that. Passing 22,000 feet. You might have noticed over here while I was yapping about the auto throttle, it said that the anti-ice is all on. That's automatic right now, so we don't have to worry about anti-ice. So that's pretty good. Usually when we start to get to around 25,000 feet, I will come down here and go seatbelts to auto. And my flight plan actually did have 2 people in the airplane with us. So really, super cockpit. They did leave the flight engineer seat in here, but they turned it into a desk. So that's probably got to be the most comfortable jump seat ever. Now then, the door itself, oh, and by the way, warning, step down. In an MD11, you step down. There is a step there. So we can kind of come through here, and then when you come out, so We can come out here and there's a curtain. And then if you look over here in the MD, there's two very comfortable seats. They have oxygen. And there's also another thing that you can do to turn that into a full bed. These airplanes went on some very long flights, so you could actually turn it into a bed and somebody could go to sleep there for a while. They also left the, when they converted it over from passengers, they left the forward galley in, and at least Lufthansa Cargo, they left the galley in, and they, the coffee machine, they put coffee stuff in there for the pilots. And I think they even did, the official food catering kitchen put food in there. So they actually put food in for the pilots too, which I thought was really nice. There is the big red handle. That's what opens and closes the doors. It doesn't work. And if you come over here, you can kind of look back there. The airplane is supposed to be loaded, but I don't think that they put cargo containers in there to save frame rates. But really nicely, you know, some nicely done modeling there. There is a lavatory back here. They did not model it. It doesn't flush or anything like that. So we've got a cabin to go and check out too on your long haul flights. Okay, we're up to DIST and OBOKA. Still in Econ Climb, that looks good. So the progress page is not very complete at all. So it doesn't give us a distance to go or anything like that. These are things that they're going to have to work on. Generally, if you go to flight plan though, this is going to show your top of climb. This is going to show your top of descent, which is really nice. Yep, you will get a top of descent indicator here on the map. Right now the map is at 20 miles. I will usually on the flight increase my map out to about 80 miles. So there's the 40-mile ring. Traffic, when I've flown with friends over on Twitch, I haven't seen traffic pop up in here. That might be something I've done wrong. The clock over here gives you your Zulu time. The timer did not we have not been flying for 82 minutes. So obviously there is a timer that I needed to reset and I didn't do it. It does give us fuel flow. It gives us an outside total air temperature outside the airplane. So that looks pretty good. It also keeps track of our fuel for us. So right now we have 42,500 pounds of fuel. Our flight plan, final reserve and alternate fuel is supposed to be 14,479. So I think we're in relatively good shape there at the moment. Cabin is climbing, so that's good news too. It gives you a center of gravity. So generally that seems to be working pretty good at the moment. And I imagine that the developers are going to be rolling out, I don't know what their schedule for rolling out fixes is going to be, but that's really pretty cool. It did notice our transition level on Econ Climb was 5,000 feet. There is cruise, and our Econ cruise is going to be Mach 0.82. That's something I really like about the MDs. And transition going into East Midlands, it says 6,000 feet. It says 6,000 feet for transition altitude. Transition level is always set by ATC almost everywhere you go. So that's gonna indicate that for us. So again, I leave this one over on performance, and that seems to be pretty good. And there's our turn to Roach, Roca, and then Tink. It shows when we're going to hit flight level 380, and there we go. So with the idea in mind that when we go ahead and land, one of the things that you have to do is reach down, click that button, and hope that it disconnects. If it doesn't, you got to keep at it so that you can go. I also have another button set that will toggle my reversers. So when I pull my throttles all the way down to idle, I'm going to hit the other button, and then I believe you push your throttles up a little bit, and that's going to put you into reverse thrust. I have yet to do a decent landing in this thing, so what could possibly go wrong? Over here, the backup altimeter is famously is not working, and I haven't been able to get the backup artificial horizon to uncage yet. There are a number of really nice liveries that came with the airplane, and liveries are already rolling out over on flightsim.to. Somebody has gone and modeled the entire Lufthansa cargo fleet. So I would imagine other fleets are probably being modeled as well. So we're continuing our climb to flight level 330. What I usually do on these videos is, so you don't have to sit there for an hour listening to me tell really, really bad jokes, is I usually hit pause on the recording. And so you would then, when I hit pause, you hit pause if you're flying along with me. And then about 100 miles before top of descent, that's when you would go and start your player again, because that's when I'm going to start recording again. In this case, this is an 80-mile range here. So there's 40 miles, that's 80 miles. So let's call it about 75 miles. So when your top of descent indicator shows up here, and that's going to look an awful lot like that flight level 380, we'll increase the map out a little more. In this case, it's an Airbus style hockey stick. So that's going to be near ERING, is currently our top of descent. When this gets to be about 75 miles out, so now that's 160 miles. So now we'll decrease it back down. There's 80 miles. And now I'm going to decrease it to 40 miles. So that's it says 40 on the inner ring, it's 80 on the outer ring. When your top of descent hockey stick shows up about halfway between, right after 80, that's when you should start the player, and we'll work on our descent. There's 35,000 feet. All of this seems to be good. You don't have to touch anything up here afterwards. Again, anti-ice is on. The windshield defogger automatically turns on. You can do the, over in the other airplane, if you push your throttles a little too far forward, you can go ahead and this button here, and it looks like it is modeled here. You can also reset fuel used. Those appear to be modeled, and so all of that is good. I will, while we're just cruising, I will look for a link to the Lufthansa cargo videos that I liked. They were really good as far as figuring out how you set up the airplane. It also showed a really good walk around on the airplane. And one of the things is the people who modeled the airplane have done an incredibly nice job modeling this airplane. So it's a little bit white, washed out right now because we're up above the clouds and it's blazing sunshine up here. So we've got, we'll have about 75 miles to do our descent preparation. One of the things that I will be doing is I'll just monitor the progress of our flight. So you can see we're getting ready to leave a control zone here. Oh, this is some approach and departure, I think. So you can kind of zoom out a little bit more. Okay, yeah, we would be talking to Langen radar right now. So we'd still be talking to Langen radar here. So I'd zoom out even more. The charts are so nice right now. You can also, the weather as a part of this is really pretty cool too. So our top of descent is after Lambert, or maybe it's a little bit before, I forgot. The other thing that I'll do is I'll go over to the airport tab, and we're gonna go to East Midlands, and I'm gonna go to the weather page, and I'm gonna have a look at the weather. Right now it is very gusty winds there, gusting to 3.6. That means it's not going to be a butter landing today, that's for sure. It's broken clouds at 3,400, and we've got 12 degrees, it's not freezing. So I'll also keep an update on the ATIS, on the METAR. This will also, if you're on VATSIM, it picks up ATIS, which is so cool. And it also tells you when the weather was updated now. 39 minutes old weather. That is absolutely, that's so nice to have. And there we go. Okay, you probably saw over here, I had those two little arrows. See those two little arrows pointing out like that? That means that GSX is still engaged. Just go click it. And that will turn off those two little arrows. And that way GSX isn't expecting you to do anything. And that's about where we're at. We are approaching our final cruising altitude of 38,000 feet. I might have been chatting away too much. I didn't hear all. You're approaching your cruise altitude horn. And there's 38,000 feet. And you can see it's leveling us off. It's probably going to put us in up Econ Cruise already. That's pretty good. Our optimum cruise level is flight level 340 right now. I'll bet as this airplane gets refined by the people, by TFDI, that's going to become an important number for us, especially if you're going to do cross the pond operations with this airplane. So because staying close to your optimum flight level, otherwise you lose fuel. And again, the other thing I liked about these airplanes, it doesn't cruise at Mach 0.76. We're cruising at Mach 0.82. So it looks like we have got a, if I'm reading this right, I have got a headwind of 120 knots and a crosswind of 37. Our ground speed is a whopping 357. Woohoo! Oh my gosh, how about that? Yeah, 357. That's awesome. Yeah, we're just, the winds, the upper level winds lately have really, really been gusty. And that's another thing you can check up there. You can also, the weather layers in this, in Navigraph have become so cool. So here's radar. We left rain in Frankfurt. And we're going to probably, I think we saw there was rain in Nottingham too. So there is radar. Let's see if it pops in. I usually stop tracking the flight here. It takes sometimes a little bit of time to download. Sometimes if you change it, so we can look at jet streams. Yeah, oh my gosh. Yes, it is going to be a windy day in the neighborhood. Icing is another particularly good thing to look at. We had a little bit of icing south of Frankfurt going out today. But this is definitely worth your time. And now I'll bet radar will load in. When you switch it, sometimes that works. And sometimes it makes me sit here and wait forever. So that's what the plan is right now. I hope you are having a great day and you're having as much fun with this airplane as I am. It's going to get better and better. So what I'm going to do is say, take a break, get some new coffee, and I will look forward to seeing you between 75 and 80 miles from top of descent. Well, if you look really, really close, there's that top of descent hockey stick. So it's about time for us to get going again. Hello, thanks for sticking with the video. I hope your flight is going well. Let's go ahead and start our descent preparations. So coming over here, just like I said, the first thing I'm going to do is, first of all, there's a lot of charts here. So let's go ahead and we're going to clear out the Frankfurt charts. We're coming in on the initial approach via Picket, and altitudes that we have here, we've got a hard altitude of 8,000 feet at Picket. Let's start with that one. This airplane does respect the descent constraints, but let's go ahead and do our initial descent of 8,000 feet. So we'll come over here and I'm going to dial in 8,000 feet. Okay, so there's 9 and 8. So that looks pretty good over here. So there's 8,000 feet, looking good. And now we're about 40 miles from top of descent. And all of this is looking pretty good too. Nothing really to worry about there. Let's come on down here and do takeoff and approach. So we're going to get basic information. It will give us a V approach speed, so that's good. Yep, the altimeter over here, the backup altimeter is freaking out. We're just going to ignore that. NavRad, this is an interesting thing, and this works really, really well. So we are coming in on runway 27. Now, there's several ways to enter this. The easiest way is to get the call sign of the ILS, which is IEME. Okay? And we put that in here. So, IEME. Spelling is important. And then just put it in the ILS. And that should give you the frequency, which is 109.35, and the inbound course, which is 268. Verify that over here. 109.35, 268. How about that? Yep, 109.35, 268. Our ILS is now set, so that's pretty cool. Back over here to flight plan. There's our top of descent right there. That looks pretty good. So we can slide over here. So there's a flight plan here and one over here. Let's go ahead and we're going to put this one over on performance now. Okay, so all that's good. And now, by the way, you also notice that the ILS has shown up here. So it's we've got the little dots here, no localizer, and it says no GS. That's okay. We're way too far out to be picking that stuff up anyway. Okay, so we can sit back a little bit and enjoy the approach here. No localizer, no approach. Let's see. We should probably think about looking at that METAR and see if there is an update. So there we are coming in, right about ready to leave Amsterdam for London control. Come over here. Weather 8 minutes ago. How about that? So, hey, it's not as gusty anymore. It's 240, it's sustained 26. That's going to make our approach a little bit easier. 13 degrees, dew point 6. No fog, scattered clouds 4,000 feet. The altimeter is 0992. So all of that is really nice too. We already know that the transition level is 6,000 feet. That's going to show up over here in page 2. So that's really nice too. Okay, so Econ Cruise looks like, okay, there's the 40-mile range. Let's come on down here and we'll decrease the map a click. And now that's going to give us a 20 miles to top of descent. Now you're right, over in the flight management computer, eventually we should get some top of descent information in here. Maybe over on the performance page, on the progress page perhaps. I don't think we're going to get that right now. So these are ways to work around what's not showing up there. I'm going to leave it on flight plan. And so far, so good. The only other thing I'm going to do is start thinking about remembering how we're going to land this thing. And we're going to remember we got to click that button. I'm going to try my little auto throttle disconnect button that I bound to a control button over on my throttles, the Thrustmaster throttles. We'll see if that works. Again, I'm not going to hold my breath there. So it's probably going to be a little sloppy on that too. Also, older jets, I tend to go off of descent profiles a lot sooner than I might go off a descent profile in a modern Airbus or Boeing. And that's just because as the older jets come on in, they, you know, their autopilots, their profile, they're not as sophisticated as the newer airplanes. I think that's actually kind of modeled. So that's a pretty cool thing. You know, that's something I do too. Plus, the other thing is if we were on VATSIM right now, we would have ATC saying, speed it up, slow it down, speed it up, slow it, that kind of deal. So that's another reason to go off of profile too. Okay, there's ERING, and the airplane has started our descent. And we are on our way down to 8,000 feet. It's going to reduce our throttles a little bit. Okay, it actually, oh, look at this. It brought the throttles all the way back to idle here. So that's pretty good. Okay, so those are back there. And this is looking good back here. Oh, I think you also changed dial-a-flap for landing to 15 degrees of flaps for dial a flap. That's sort of your midway stop. Maybe they dial this in the airplane, I don't know, as they're slowly rolling out the flaps. I'm not sure. Descending at about 2,000 feet per minute. Let's see, minimums. The only minimums that we have right now is radar altimeter. So we can set minimums for runway 27. Minimums are 200 feet. So we don't have to worry about it. There's no baro set on this airplane yet. So it's just going to say RA. And if you're going to go, even if you go and click some things here, that's the way that goes. And all of that is so far so good. We've got a descent deviation indicator here, and you can see, well, the little diamond appears to be pegged all the way at the bottom right now. So it's not telling us it wants any speed brake, but we are descending fairly good. Ah, the little diamond is starting to move up. So it looks like we're catching up with our descent path. So, you know, when the diamond gets in the middle, we can say that we are no longer being deviant. Okay. How about coffee? Now's probably a good time for me to say all the things that YouTubers say, you know, usually at the end of their videos. Thank you so much for watching here. If you like what you saw, those little subscriptions really help. I'm still really new on YouTube. I definitely appreciate any time you feel like putting a comment in or something like that. It does also help with interaction with YouTube as I try to grow the YouTube side of the Spy Flight channels that I'm trying to build here. Do want to invite you to come on over to Twitch sometime. We do every flight is a group flight. We're flying 6 days a week, Tuesday through Sunday. Our departure time is pretty much always 1900 Zulu. Occasionally we depart a few hours earlier if there is a VATSIM event in Europe or something that might be fun. But you are definitely welcome there. If you really liked what you saw here today, I'm also one of those people who got laid off. So this is how it is that I'm keeping the lights on. You know, Twitch and YouTube is what's working for me right now. So if you feel like it, a subscription over on Twitch. If that's not your thing, there is also a link to Ko-fi. I have also gone and started a Patreon, which is a morning flight video that I do each day to kind of break down the first flight that we're going to do, take a look at the charts and do a flight briefing about what we're doing over there. And if you feel like joining over at Patreon, that would also be super appreciated. Fact is this is sort of like the first year that I've done this business. I've got to tell you that Patreon has really saved me, so that's been really nice. And enough of those, we're done with that. Except, of course, for links in the description. That's what they all say, right? Okay, I think we're starting to get bounced up and down a little bit because of some of the gusty winds here today. But we are on our profile. We're coming up on the Lamburn VOR. On the approach, there really aren't any altitude constraints. We need to be at flight level 80 at Pigot. And it does have us 220 knots and flight level 80 at Pigot. So I think we're right in our profile for the descent as we come on in. The airplane is still looking really good. The clouds have definitely decreased as we came in over the channel, but I'm expecting the winds and stuff to increase as we come on in to Nottingham and East Midlands. And you can see right out there. When I start to see the control column like fidgeting as bad as that is, that's usually a pretty good indicator that that's a pretty good indicator that maybe Betty's going to disconnect the autopilot soon. Everything's pretty good to go here. We're passing 28,000 feet. Now we're getting a little bit low on the profile, but you see it's also, I think it's dealing with gusty winds at the moment. We already know by looking over here at takeoff and approach that our VAP speed is going to be 162. It does not give any other speeds at the moment, so that's just all there is to that. This is also for a flaps 50 landing, I believe. Maybe it's flaps 35, and if you want a flaps 50, you click it here. I think I'm going to leave it the way it is. I think I'm going to leave it just the way it is here at the moment. So far, so good. So far, so good. Speed is about 330. So now it did automatically take us out of Mach. So now it's indicated airspeed. As we slowly approach the UK, this is when probably ATC is going to start slowing us down. So we'll just go ahead. We're not on VATSIM right now. We'll keep the speed up just a little bit here. Still a touch low on the horizon. I do have data showing right now, but it's not showing altitudes here. You can kind of come over here to the flight plan and get some indication of where the airplane thinks you should be. So 16,000 at WELIN. And then the beginning of the runway 27 initial approach. There is also a freeware edition that you can get for East Midlands. I think somebody has made a payware for it. But the freeware is over at flightsim.to. One of the things I've started using, though, are two little applications. One is called Microsoft Flight Simulator Add-on Linker. And that way I can turn off a lot of the freeware airports that I've gotten and turn on the airports that we're going to. I generally leave the paywares alone. I don't move those around too much. But Add-on Linker is probably saving me a little bit of time loading up the sim. And then there is also a little application out there called Wind Sailor. And Wind Sailor basically is a way to go, and it goes over to flightsim.to. It knows the what it is that you've downloaded and tells you if there's an update. And if there's a new thing that you want, you can actually have that, download it, unzip it, and put it in the folder that you want it to be put into. So those are two little time savers that I really do appreciate that have come out from Microsoft Flight Simulator. Okay, there's the Lamburn VOR as we're starting to come in closer to London. We could also have had airports turned on, but right now airports does not work. So that's pretty good. We're still at showing us a little bit low on the profile here. You can also see we're coming up here and getting a little bit close. Okay, here's a little bit of a turn here. It's a kinky little turn that shows up in this. So after WELIN, Pigot, HEMEL, WELIN, and Pigot. So there is a really interesting twisty turning thing here. So it looks like it's going to be, there's HEMEL, there's WELIN. After WELIN, there's Pigot, and then there is this D95D. I think that might be, how about if we get rid of this one? I know, we're going to live, let's pull that out. And let's see if that took that little kinky turn out of this. Not really. How about, let's see, what else is in there? There is WELIN. It's actually Pigot that wants us to make some little turn here. I think it's probably okay. Let's leave that alone, but now is probably a good time to start. Let's start, you know, time to start slowing it down. So we'll push this button here. And that should give us our current speed. It did. I'm going to go and reduce our speed now down. Let's see. This is about the time when they would probably start telling us, how about 270 for the moment? Okay, this is the way you're supposed to do this on this airplane. So come over here, and you've got the little hand over there. You click it and drag it down. And if you click it and drag it down, that's how it is that you activate that speed. And now you see 270s in there. Might need a little speed brake here. A little speed brake helps. That's going to slow us down. And we probably even see some speed brakes flapped out on the wings too. Perfect. And we're also about ready to pass slats extend speed on this airplane. SE. GE is gear extend safe speed. So we'll also throw out some slats to help manage this descent a little bit more. And our speed's coming down. If you've got a set of external controllers that has a speed brake handle, it is a really good thing to do what the real pilots do. And what the real pilots do is, especially on approach, is if they have to bring in speed brakes, if at all possible, they leave their hand on the speed brake handle until they put the speed brakes back. Otherwise, you forget to do that. I do that all the time. And we could also do slats extend. So slats extend. Here comes our slats. And that looks pretty good too. So far, so good. Let's see, we're past 25,000 feet. 25,000 feet sort of just the magic number that I use for doing seat belts from auto to on. I don't think we need the logo light anymore. It's bright. It's very bright outside. I think that, you know, probably maybe by the next cross the pond, we're going to start to see more of these flying around on cross the pond. These are cross the pond capable, and you know, up until recently, they were being used quite a bit. I think they got caught up in the engine parts scandal, and so at that point in time, as soon as that, you know, I think that kind of sped up the retirement dates of a lot of the MD11s that were still flying cargo, just because the cost to deal with the engine part nonsense was way too much. So I think a lot of these are getting parked in the desert, or even earlier than they'd wanted to. Okay, I think our descent is in pretty good shape. I'm going to go ahead and increase my altitude now down to 4,000 feet. So we're going to increase it down to 4,000 feet, which is the end of that descent. It says profile descent to 7,000, so I think it's keeping in mind the constraints here. Passing 20,000 feet. The ATC's probably going to call and start slowing us down even more, but we'll keep it up, keep speed up right now. Altimeter reset is 6,000 feet, and the altimeter is 0992. Sorry, my voice is now officially going into bad mode. And now it really wants us to descend fast. So let's go ahead and throw some speed brakes out. Now all of a sudden we found that we're a little bit high on the descent. When you're high, that at that point, if you throw out some speed brakes, that helps the airplane descend faster. We're descending now at about 5,400 feet per minute. It's reducing our speed a little bit too. So maybe we don't need that much speed brake. How about just a little? To keep our rate of descent up, but our speed isn't increasing or decreasing. There we go. Now we're catching up with it. Now we're catching up with it. We've got a 50-knot crosswind right now. So as you can see from the map, we're a little bit crabby. And there we go. Let's go ahead and get ready over here. Auto brakes. So what have we got for our runway here at East Midlands? East Midlands is a 9,000-foot runway. I think we would probably like to get off the runway. Let's go ahead and we're going to go and just put it at the max right now. Part of the reason is also because of the auto throttle problem. So let's go ahead and do that. I'm not going to arm my speed brakes yet, simply because I feel like we're going to need, I'm probably going to need those again as we descend. Right now we're on profile though, passing 15,000 feet. As we get closer and closer, if we're on VATSIM, at this point I would have kind of expected them to get us down to about, tell us to start getting closer to 250. Let's go ahead and make it 250. This is also a big heavy airplane, so any chance I have to start slowing it down on these approach, especially if you've got these twisty turns here. And we got a 90-degree turn coming up for our turn to final. That is airspeed 180 knots or less. Big airplane like that. Speed's coming down, and you can see gear extend is now green, and flaps 15 is good. So flaps are now 15 degrees. We don't need to do gear quite yet. But the slats on this thing were really pretty impressive. And then when we come into land, the flaps going down, I mean, they hang almost all the way down to the landing gear. They really drop down on this thing. There's WELIN. So we're at 40 miles. Let's go over here and hit decrease on the map a little bit. So now we're on a 20 mile. And there's 14,000 feet. Now we're a touch low. No problem at the moment. And we've also got not such a tight turn here from Piggott over to this one waypoint. I might even delete that second one so that the turn isn't quite so bad. How about let's get DTY 25 out of there so it's a little bit of a easier turn for us. No. We wanted to go clear DTY 25 and then clear that discontinuity. That should make our turn, yes, even less sharp. That's going to be better for us coming in. Those sharp turns were just a little too much. Hey, we've actually got to get to see a little bit of the ground too. Nice little sunset it's starting to look like. It's starting to get a little late in the day here over in the UK. There's WELIN. 250, passing 13,000 feet. So far, so good. So far, so good on this approach. And the airplane itself is just behaving so nicely. Of course, we haven't touched down yet. And I'm also still, my brain is still coming back to, okay, auto throttle, how are we going to do this? Because I know it's possible. I've seen people landing this airplane in multiplayer really, really nicely. And so it is possible to do that. I just got to make sure I'm doing the right buttons on this. Okay, our fuel is at 34,600 pounds. Wow, 34,600 pounds. As we're approaching, final reserve and alternate is 14,479. So holy cats, have we got a lot of fuel still in the airplane. We've still got a fair amount of fuel in this bird. So we're a little on the heavy side, so I imagine that some of the fuel consumption and all of that is needing a little bit of work. And we now are showing, it says flaps 14, okay, and IEME. An important thing to check on all the airplanes, when you see that indicator, have a look and make sure that that matches your chart. Real world pilots do it religiously. That's part of the job. In flight sim, because there can be some data thing that goes wacky on you, it's important to go ahead and do that too. And there is, coming up on 11,000 feet, there is WELIN. We're coming into Piggott. And there's our turn over there. A little bit low now on the profile. That's okay. People love seeing big noisy jets like this flying low over their houses, right? So let's see, it says 14. Let's go ahead. And I just dialed it one more to see if that makes it flaps 15. Oh, now it made flaps 0. So I guess I should not have moved that. Now it's indicating, okay, now it says flaps 14. I shouldn't experiment right now. That could cause a serious problem. There would be an international incident. Okay, where it's a little bit gusty here, so as not to exceed 250, we're going to put 240 in there. Because with those gusty winds, that could push us above 250. (10,000 feet), speed slow enough. We can go ahead and start getting the lights ready to go. So landing gear lights are now not retracted. And then we're going to turn them on. So they're on. And then we can also do the taxi light. All of that's looking pretty cool. You could ring if you had somebody back out in the cabin. Let's see, I think, you know, you could do a cabin call, do seat belts, rotate them, and that should ring the bell back in there. I thought that there was a cabin call button. Maybe that's in another one. Maybe they don't have it mod. They took it out on this one. There's 10,000 feet coming up on Piggott there. After Piggott, okay, that's going to be, we're 8,000 at Piggott. Let's see if it makes it there. Right now it's going for 10. We are 6 miles. I think we're going to be slightly high. We're still set for 4,000 feet. I'm going to go ahead. This is still going pretty good. So I'm going to go and let it take us down to 2,000, which is platform altitude on this ILS. So as we come on in, there's our little airplane there. There was that 4,000 above 2,000 for the ILS on runway 27. And there's 2,000. There's the little Maltese cross there. So that's 2,000 for our platform altitude. So all of that is good to go there. We'll go back over to this chart. I think with this airplane and airplanes that aren't complete and cranky, it's really nice to have things like Navigraph and moving charts off to the side. It just helps you. And now it's increasing our rate of descent a little bit here. We are 2 miles from Piggott. We're going to hit 8,000. That constraint's going to be just fine. So the airplane handled that pretty good, but it did increase our rate of descent to hit that 8,000 feet there in a mile. Now let's see. I'll bet it's going to reduce our rate of descent as we get closer. And here is our turn, and I'll bet we're going to continue on. Okay, map comes in another click. That looks good there. And we're going to get all set up on this course heading. Now's a good time. ATC is going to probably tell us 210 knots. So let's go and do 210 knots. And speed's decreasing there. Let's go back to takeoff and approach. VAP is 162. The Lufthansa cargo pilots would always say a speed and then +1. So they always did a speed and then said +1. They added a knot on those videos. And doesn't look like we're descending to that 210 quite yet. So we'll come over here, and I just did a touch of speed brake. Hey, look at that. We're picking up glide slope and localizer now. We got 2 pink diamonds there. And so now we're coming up on 210 knots. Put speed brakes away. There's 210. And all is pretty well right with the world here. So we have to be above 7,000 feet. That's our next constraint. And all of that is just looking really, really good. I think we just got one of those little wind bumps. think we just got a little wind bump here. Yeah, it definitely changed. Although the airplane handled it really well. So in the past, you know, sometimes it would kick the autopilot off. We're good here. Okay, we appear to be a tad high on the glide slope, but we're nowhere near there. There's 210 knots. Usually at about this point, I'm going to go ahead and do landing gear. The landing gear animations on this airplane are really, really wicked right now. They're not in great shape. So I usually don't go outside the airplane to watch the landing gear. I just go ahead and turn it down. There's 7,000 feet. And proceed to 5,000 feet. Let's go ahead and have that go down. There we go, going down there, DTY, so there is the 15-mile range. Last click of the range button, there's 5 miles. And oh my gosh, all of a sudden we've decided to go down at about 3,000 feet per minute. It really kicked into gear there, how about that? And this is the point where I'm gonna go and do 180. It's a little bit sooner, but 180 to intercept the ILS. I'm slowing it down a little bit sooner right now because we've got a 90-degree turn to make and because it's this airplane. We are at flaps 15. I think we can go to flaps 28 right now. How about flaps 28? Flaps are 28. So it didn't show that F28 there earlier, but now it's saying it's okay for flaps 35. So we're below flaps 35 speed. So flaps are 35. And then there's our flaps 50 speed. Once again, our VAP speed is 162 plus 1 is 163. And the landing checklist. Approach checklist. System modes are auto. Our altimeters are not set. The altimeter is 0992. So 0992. 0992. Altimeters are checked and set. Approach checklist is done. One of the things I'll do is I'll go and I'll print them up and I'll put them in a little plastic sleeve like this. It makes it so nice to be able to use these. Okay, we're looking pretty good here. There is DT36. That's correct. And then we've got another one, DTY30A. We could do a direct to CF27 for the intercept on this. But it's starting to make the turn. Now, from what I'm told, the auto land, the approach and land gets a little bit dodgy here. So it's about time for us to get centered up here. So if you're like me, get comfortable in your chair, make sure you can push your rudder pedals, and I'm going to arm the approach and land. Localizer and hold are now armed, and it's starting to do a really wild turn here. So that doesn't look really very good. I'm going to take control of my heading. So my heading is a little messed up here. So it's like turning us completely around. Oops. So approach and land is not being good to us right now. Okay, there's our heading. I'm going to get back over there. Chances are we're not going to be able to use the approach and land has got a problem right now. Okay, we're at 2,000 feet and it's going to hold us there. So that looks pretty good on the ILS here. After that 2,000 feet, there is glide slope and localizer over there, so we can probably use this right now. I'm going to go ahead and use the auto flight stuff just a bit. I've got the airport and the runway. It's right over there. So let's go ahead and we're going to do this ourselves. I'm going to go ahead and drop this down to about, how about 1,100 feet. Here comes glide slope. There comes the glide slope. I'm going to arm that one, and let's go ahead and let's use vertical speed. I'm going to have vertical speed, and we're going to set it to 800 feet per minute. We're a touch low, so maybe that's a little much. Let's try vertical speed at 500 feet per minute now. Up, there goes. We missed the localizer. We missed the localizer. Let's come on over here. And there we are. There is our turn, and we're making that turn. Gently putting my feet on the rudder pedals. We're going to go ahead and take off.
Autopilot.
Okay, I barely touched them,
Autopilot.
and it disconnected my autopilot. So we are in control. No going back now. There's 5 miles DME, 162 plus 1. Oops, wrong one. 162. 163 is our speed for landing. And there we go. Up there's the runway. I lined up on a road. Not so good. Speed's coming down. Let's do flaps 50. I've just moved my throttles to about halfway physically in the cockpit. So I've just moved them, the physical thrustmaster, I've moved them about all halfway down. Because that's about where they are for real. Okay, we're lined up over there. There's our runway. So we're going to be making this a turn to final. I'm going to go and hit that auto throttle disconnect button. I just hit it. I don't know if it's done it. I don't think it's done it. Let's hit the button here. I just hit the button there. Okay, we're coming down a little bit too much. I've got my throttles going up here. The auto throttle is really trying to take over here.
Minimum.
I've just gone full throttle. I think we're going in.
Minimum.
Not good. Oh, and it's going to
100,
put us on the
30,
ground.
20, 10.
And it put my throttles all the way up there. So, oh my goodness, the horror. Ah, rats. Well, this has been known to happen, and I think it happens to a lot. Now, I have seen people in multiplayer who I know are flying this airplane, and they have got it. They have got it together. They make it look good. Obviously, today, this is what we call a bit of a failure here. So that's going to happen. Why is it we all say that this airplane is not close to being ready? I think the first mistake that I made was I hit the auto land button, the approach and land button, not auto land. I think that was mistake number one. I don't think you want to do that right now. One of the things that I think I'm going to try and do is I'm going to try and pick this up. So this is not the end of the video. I'm going to go and restart the flight. I'm not going to make you watch all that, but I'm going to pick the flight back up. We're going to try it again. So I'm going to do the same flight, and I'm going to pick it back up. Probably, I'm going to pick it up here at Pickett. So I'm going to go do the flight. We'll stop the recording and start the recording again. This time, I'm not going to do auto approach land, and we'll see what happens, because I didn't think that the auto throttles went off. I thought I clicked the button, but I didn't think that it went off. So, in fact, you can still hear the engines are all revved up. My throttles are at idle. Up. Now, of course, they're off. Now, of course, they're off. And I don't see that there is a... I don't see that there is an indicator. It says AP off, but that's about it. So, it's time to go, and I'm going to redo the flight. I will meet you again at Pickett, and let's see what happens that time, okay? See you in a bit. Wow, all of a sudden it got kind of dark out there. Hey, welcome back in. Okay, this is take 2. We're going to try this again. Big thing, we are not going to touch the approach and land button on this one, okay? So we're coming up on Piggott right now, 11 miles out. My speed's 211 knots. We're really pretty good there, descending past 10,000 feet. I do have the dome lights on. It gets really dark here. You can't even see the light switches. So we'll go ahead and get the lights all set up for landing. And really that's all we need as far as the overhead panel. So go ahead and turn off the dome lights. And we got everything that we can see pretty much right here. Okay, same deal as before. I've already entered in all of my data. Taking a look at the airports over here 14 minutes ago. We still have some gusty winds here today. Supposed to pick up. Right now it's 200 at 14, but the tempo says winds picking up. Our altimeter now is 1001, and we're going to do that at about 6,000 feet. So we're at 10,000 right now. Landing lights are on, 211 knots. I slowed down a little bit sooner this time just because, hey, we need to slow down a little bit sooner this time. I did experiment a little bit, you know, the stopwatch up here, the 126. I did go over and hit the reset button. Nothing happened. So that doesn't work right now, so the stopwatch is not current. I also went and I deleted the 2 waypoints after Piggott that we did, so I have a nice gentle turn to come on into our final approach. Map is on the 40-mile range, and that's we're going to try this again. So what I will do is, as we're coming in here, I'm going to be taking control of the autopilot probably after DTY 28. So that's going to be my directional, and I'm going to try and do that myself. We're going to continue down to our platform altitude of 2,000 feet. That's what I've currently got set over in the altitude window. Right now we're basically doing a profile descent here. So I'm going to bring my map in, click. We'll see if take 2 actually gets us closer to the runway. Another mistake that I made is I had my flaps out full. Once you've got full flaps on something this big, I don't think that you're going to stop your descent. At least, you know, I certainly couldn't. Okay, and that looks good too. Yeah, I had to switch coffee mugs. I think the battery in my heated mug has finally given up the ghost. So I'm going to have to go and figure out a new way to keep the coffee hot here in the sim cockpit. Okay, we're at F28. We're right on the line. I'm not going to do flaps 28. We're over right now at flaps 15. So flaps are right at 15, 25, 35, and 50. Not going to do 50 until, I'm sure. Fuel, I put the same amount of fuel in, and right now the fuel is like, it's like we hardly used any fuel. So I think they've got to redo some of the fuel numbers on this too. So that does mean we're landing kind of heavy right now. 8,000 feet of Piggott, that looks pretty good. And it's going to stop there. There is our turn. As soon as we pass, it should drop to 7,000 after that. And I guess it's going to stop for a second. And yep, that just dropped to 7,000. And we're getting a little bit closer to the ILS here. So now we do have glide slope and localizer. So those are all nicely set. Flaps are 208. And there we go. Coming on in. Let's see, can we see East Midlands? East Midlands is going to be somewhere out there. Nope, no sign of the airport yet. We do still have some gusty crosswinds to deal with, so that's okay. We're right on our descent. Let's see, I have not done checklists, so we need to do approach checklist, and we need to do landing checklist. And we're not going to, we could, let's see, transition here is about 6,000 feet. The altimeter here is 1001. So we'll go over here and go 1001 on the altimeter. It's a little high to set that, but that's okay. And that means approach checklist. System modes are still auto. Altimeters are checked. And we are ready for that. I did discover one thing. So I had pre-armed my speed brakes here. I had pre-armed my speed brakes, and then I needed to deploy the speed brakes to slow us down. Guess what did not work for me? guess what did not work? Speed brakes. So once you arm them, if you've got a speed brake handle on one of your controllers, that's not going to work out so well. I've also taken my physical throttles, the Thrustmaster throttles, and I moved them halfway down. So we're going to go ahead and still try and reduce our own throttles and see if that if that doesn't, you know, floor the airplane when we come into land. And that looks good. We're a touch high right now. We're going to stay at 7,000 feet until DTY 28. Then we continue our descent after that, I hope. Let's go ahead and get ready for 180 knots. So 180 knots in the little window there. And we'll probably have to put that in. Let's go ahead and do landing gear. A little early, but that's okay. We are about 15 miles out. Very big airplane. Flaps can go down to 28. Flaps are going down to 28. All of this looks good. Now again, I'm going to go ahead and do my own heading here. So heading hold is now engaged. I've gone and done that, and it's taken us out of managed descent. So I'm going to have to go and descend us now. So let's go ahead and continue the descent at about 800 feet per minute and see how that works. We've got our heading here. Let's go ahead and turn out just a little bit here. There is a little bit of a turn there, and one last click of the map. There's our 10-mile click of the map, and we're continuing on down. It should stop me at 2,000 feet. I'm going to continue my rate of descent at about 1,000 feet per minute now. There we go. Gear is down, 3 green, 4 green on this thing. So I bet we could start thinking about the landing checklist. Gear down, 4 green, auto brakes are armed. I've got it set to medium. Spoilers are armed. Flaps are out. The EAD is probably not green yet because we're not at full flaps. I think we're good to go there. I've also turned out just a little bit to give myself a little bit more room on this. So I'm going to give myself a touch more room. And we're now starting to catch up with the glide slope a little bit here. So that's good news too. Glide slope's coming on up to 2,000 feet. We're at 4,000 now. Let's increase that rate of descent just a touch more. And we're at 180 knots. VAP is 162 plus 1, 163. We're good to go on that. Ah, there comes the glide slope there. Giving myself a little bit more breathing room on this approach. Hey, do we have an airport that we can see? Hey, there is an airport. Right on. All right, coming on around. We'll start the turn in just a second here. Fact is, let's go ahead and draw the line, and then we'll execute it in just a second. There is our turn, and start the turn. Here we go. We're below glide slope. I'm going to reduce my rate of descent now to about 800 feet per minute and let it go to 1,000 feet. So 800 feet per minute, and I'm going to reduce that even more. There we go. Nice turn to final. And around we come. And we should see an airport. I think either that's the airport or that's the road that faked me out the last time. I think that's the airport. Easier to see here at night. Our descent is still pretty good. 180, and we aren't about 11 miles out or so. 10 miles out, and I've got the correct ILS dialed in too. So this is still pretty good. Throttles are about halfway at the moment, so I'm going to reduce my throttles
2,500.
just below the little detent in the Airbus Thrustmaster. And we're going to try and disconnect the autopilot and see if that doesn't help us out a little bit. Okay, we're coming up here. Should be about ready to make our turn. I'm going to go ahead and dial this around now to the runway heading, and our runway heading is 268 degrees. Hey, there's 268 already set. And we're going to watch for the glide slope, and then we'll just turn in that general direction. There it goes. All right, big airplane, turn. Turn. 268 on the heading. Turn. There we go. Hard to see at night. Okay, we've turned over a little bit more. Our descent continues at about 600 feet per minute. Let's make it 500 feet per minute and let it go down to about 700. I'm still letting the airplane do a lot of the work for me. Let's go ahead and blow that, move over a little bit to the right, try and use the autopilot as long as we can. And we may need to now start increasing our descent just a touch. How about 600 feet per minute? Now turn this back over here. Get back on the runway heading. Okay, that's so far so good. So far so good. Okay, the wind is blowing us to the right, it looks like. The wind is blowing us a little bit to the right here. So how about a few degrees off there? And we're still doing pretty good here. Nice descent. We're still a little bit low. I'm descending at about 600 feet per minute. Let's make it 500 feet per minute. And there's the runway, 5 miles. So VAP is 162. Let's make it 165. I'm going to add a few. There we go. Okay, we're off to the side. I think that the autopilot's done all the work it can. Ready?
Autopilot.
Autopilot is gone. Let's go ahead and fly it ourselves. I'm going to reduce a little bit here. Flaps are 35. Okay, we're climbing a bit now. Let's come on over here. Still a touch low. This airplane definitely flies, is a lot more sluggish than an Airbus. Oh, and that auto trimming that the Airbus does, nah, doesn't happen here. Okay, that's fairly decent. So far, so good. Hey, we got PAPI lights. We got 2 red and 2 white now. So now we're on the verge of being a little high on the descent. All right, let's go over here and let's click the thrust lever. I just clicked the thrust lever. That's auto thrust off, I hope.
Approaching minimum.
Got blown off to the side by that wind. Come on back over here.
Minimum.
Minimum.
100. 50. 40. 30. 20. 10.
Reverse. The reverser did not engage. There's the auto thrust again. It's trying to take me off again. It didn't turn off the minimum, the middle one. Okay, there's reversers, and because I was in there, I got off the runway. Oh man, jeez. Here's reverse. get back on the runway. Okay, reversers are stowed. So you saw it tried to re-engage the auto throttle again. Tried to re-engage it again, but so far, not so bad. And hey, we made a taxiway. So, you know, airplane is a handful, and I think it's going to stay that way for a while, but I've got to tell you, even as frustrating as some of that is, it's at least a lot of fun for me. And I hope that this turns out to be a lot of fun for you too. I can't wait to see what our friends from TFDI do as this airplane continues to grow. I imagine that as time goes by, we're going to probably start getting some pretty good information on how to handle the auto thrust thing, and we'll start learning a little bit about that. And we'll kind of come on over here. Boy, did it get dark here tonight at East Midlands. Landing rate was minus 531, minus 531 according to Flow Pro's little landing rate meter. Now, if you've been flying with me over on Twitch, you know that the landing rate meter is never nice to me. It's never nice to me. We're going to go to squawk transponder on the taxiways. And did we get our flaps up? Well, we did. Flaps are up, speed brakes are down. And speed brakes are disarmed. Nope. There they go. Disarmed. And I think that there is a taxiway. I don't know where Lufthansa Cargo parks here at East Midlands, but as we come on into East Midlands, there is a parking area in the middle of all of this that seems to be perfect for very big jets like this one. And let's see, our taxi speed right now is 40 knots. Gee, I think that, yeah, I better watch it. Yeah, 40 knots is a little bit high of a taxi speed. And we'll come in here to this other one, and it should be a straight in at this taxiway. Yeah, the taxiway Romeo should be straight into a big parking place. Let's see, the cargo operations, what they will do is they will go and you don't start the APU coming in, especially with one of these. What you do is you come in as soon as you're done with an engine, like, you know, the right or the left engine, you can shut one engine down as you come on in, and then shut the other engine down, and then the ground crew will connect a ground power cart. And then after that, you can go and connect, shut down the middle engine. So the one on the tail stays on while you're doing everything else. So we could probably do that. Everything else looks good. Brake differential temperature. My brakes are probably because I stomped on them a bit. So the brakes are not happy with me. I'm shocked that there's a problem with something. And so we'll just kind of come over here. There looks like a line, and that's where we're going to come in and park. I think I see a line there. Some of these are hard to see. Is that it? Or do we go over it? Oh, there it is. I see the spot. Well, there isn't a very good line going out. So there is spot number 10. I think that building's in the wrong place. So there's our taxi, and there is our very, very big airplane. Well, I guess there's a little bit of grass in some of the tires, but I'm sure that's okay. Coming on in, we're going to turn off the taxi lights. Don't want to blind the ground crew. And we're good to go here. How about those engines? And we can stop. And parking brakes can go on. Parking brakes are on. At this point in time, we'll also squawk standby. Come on over here. We're going to go to services. Put wheel chocks in place. I want that ground power unit to show up. And then we'll wait. Do we have ground power available? We do. Punch that in. and then we can shut down engine number 2. And here we are, we made it. So we would also then come up here and we'll turn off the beacon. That's pretty good. We could turn off that passenger sign. That's going to be pretty good too. We don't have APU air, so we just have that. Now we can open up the passenger door and the big old monster cargo door, and wow, we made it. And again, a 531 is not a bad deal. We did touch down a little bit early, so we needed to touch down at the big touchdown point there. We were right at the beginning, right at the edge of the runway there, but that was still good. And like I said, a 531 landing rate is going to be just awesome. So there you go. That is the Lufthansa cargo. Well, that is the TFDI MD11. There is also a passenger variant, and it comes with some nice liveries. So I'm excited to have this in my new in the flight simulator hangar. There you go. This airplane it is a handful. As I always like to say at the end of these videos, this is never about the right way versus the wrong way. This is always about what it is that I'm finding works for me in the world of flight simulation. And I hope that some of this works for you. I can't wait to see what TFDI does with the next few airplanes here. I think that's going to be really, really nice. As always, I'm going to look forward to your questions and your comments. And as the airplane evolves, look for a couple more cold and dark videos here on YouTube. I'll look forward to seeing you the next time, also over on Twitch. In the meantime, as always, stay healthy, stay safe, and I can't wait to see you in the friendly sim skies. Cheers.